Welcome to our live segment, unfiltered, uncensored, and unapologetically real. This isn't just another podcast. This is the group chat for everyone quietly losing it in the bathroom stall, texting their therapist, Googling how to set boundaries, and wondering why toddlers eat air and coworkers weaponize niceness. That's all thing about. Now, I've got a thing to start with tonight, and let's see. The moment you stop seeking validation, there's a meme, right? And you've got a picture of a depressed guy, and it goes, and on the top half, and it goes, the moment you stop seeking validation. The bottom half, it's a brighter picture. He's smiling. Is the moment you're free. There's truth to that, but not really. Because the moment you stop seeking external validation is the moment you turn to yourself for validation. It's the moment you start holding yourself accountable to your own standards. That's not free. You're choosing the burden to carry, but it's not free. It's actually I would argue it's a heavier burden. It's easy to go along with the crowd. It's easy to just follow the masses, relatively speaking. It's harder to carry your own burden and be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get a hall pass.
Yeah, no.
Ever.
But you are free to carry your own burden. You're no longer carrying somebody else's burden.
Mm-hmm.
You get the choice to carry your own and to be who you want to be in life. And that's the reason that you stop seeking external validation. It's not that you're no longer seeking validation. That's not what is happening. What is happening is you're no longer seeking external validation. You're looking internally for that. You're looking inward. Because if you just stop seeking external validation and sit on the couch eating bonbon, you're not going to feel any better about yourself. Because the external validation wasn't the issue.
What was the issue?
The issue is you're still failing yourself, and you know it. Maybe you're too dumb to know it, and so then you're happy. But most people who have enough sense to think these things through are wise enough to know when they're failing themselves. So it's not that what sets you free is that your decision to carry your own burdens and choosing which burdens those are and which ones they aren't. That's what sets you free. You're no longer carrying other people's burdens. You're no longer carrying burdens that you assumed the group wanted you to carry. You've decided to carry the burdens you choose to carry. And they might even be heavier, but you're going to feel better about it because they're yours. You might have to decide to let some of them rocks go because they're just too dang heavy to carry around with you the rest of your life. And that can set you free, or at least lighten your load. If there is a bigger thing I would like to point out is stop expecting life to be easy. I think there's too many today who, for whatever reason, we won't go into that, expect life to be easy. All this stuff should be done for you. Why do you think that? It's never happened in the course of evolution, as far as I can tell. Why is now and you different than any other time throughout history of everything? It's just a cruel, cruel place, man, if you think about it.
Basically, I think people are missing their childhood. Maybe they never had one.
Well, in a sense, what we call what you and I lived in essentially a golden era where children actually had childhoods. How many children were out working the fields at 5, 6, 7 years old in the course of human history? Most human children didn't have childhoods, as we would call it. You were contributing to the economic benefit in the wide range of economics. We're not talking dollars and cents. We're talking the whole food gathering, prepping, cleaning, putting stuff away, burying the trash, all the various tasks that even a small village needs to get done. As soon as you were able to do any part of that task, you were participating in getting those tasks done. Is that a childhood? You weren't set free. We fooled ourselves. Most people were not set free to go off and frolic in the woods. And the only time you got to do that was the rare time of the year where just after harvest. That's it. The only time anybody ever had any free time. And even that was only a short period of time because you had to get that stuff packed and set and dealt for winter. You had a week, maybe depending upon where you lived. If you were a farming community, you might have a few weeks during the summer period that were light work, where you're just, watching the crops and watching them grow and making sure stuff didn't go wrong. It's relatively light work. Relatively for a farm, right? There's never light work in a farming. There's no such thing as that. If you get a day off, and the day off considers you still got to go feed the cows and the pigs and the chickens.
That's day off.
Yeah, that's a day off. The farm animals still have to get fed, so you don't actually have a day off. But the day off is all I had to do that day was feed the animals. That's your day off. So, and I think we forget that. There were no days off in the past. They didn't exist. There were no working hours. If an animal was in trouble at 2 a.m., you went out and you took care of the animal. If you were in a village in the middle of the Serengeti, somebody had to stay up at night and keep watch, keep the fire going. There is no. We have it so easy today, and I'm not making light of people's. You were all stuck with the, we're born and exist in the time we're born in. It's perfectly fine to kind of to be depressed, whatever you're feeling over the life you're going through, at the moment. Just put it in some perspective and know it's not the worst it's ever been. It's tough because of course it is. Life's hard, but it's always been hard. It's not unique to you. So anyway, you are not free when you stop seeking external validation. You are just now your own master. Okay.
Okay, we're going to start off some questions.
Yep.
I put in my notice at my job. A couple hours later, my manager called me with HR and offered me 2 weeks pay to search for a new job and to work the 2 weeks. Did I get fired?
No, you quit. Look, your 2 week severance is essentially when you put in for your 2 weeks notice, you are essentially telling them I'm quitting in 2 weeks. Or I'm quitting and I'm willing. Here's how it really is. I'm quitting and I'm willing to work for 2 more weeks. They don't have to accept your willingness to work for 2 more weeks. They're being nice, actually, in this particular case. They offered you 2 weeks pay.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
They sure don't. They like you.
They can tell you to go home.
Yeah.
So, right? A lot of places, most good places, if you've got a relatively good place, what they'll do is they'll have you work that first week of your 2 week notice, tie up loose ends and make sure anything kind of gets transferred over, and then they'll pay you for the last week because everybody gets short-timer's disease and there's no point in having you around. and it just is, right? So why end on that? So you end a week earlier when everybody's still happy with everything, right? It's just better that way. And essentially that's kind of what they're doing. They're saying, take your 2 weeks pay. You're quitting. What do you care if you've been fired? You quit for a reason, either to go get another job, which in case, what do you care that they're going to give you 2 weeks to go for a new, take the 2 weeks vacation then. Or there's something about the job you can't stand, you can't like, or whatever, and it's time for you to move on, which in case then take the check and be happy you don't have to go back to work there.
There you go.
I don't understand the complaint in any shape, matter, or form. You were leaving. You wanted to leave.
Well, if he was fired, then he can get unemployment pay.
But you were quitting. Why do you want unemployment? You were leaving deliberately. I'm not. See, this is kind of what I'm talking. Consequences of your actions, man. It's perfectly fine if you don't need to leave, but you quit. That's what happened when you gave him the piece of paper saying I'm leaving and you're quit.
You made a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow through.
You're all good.
Yeah.
Either take the check and go look for a job for the next 2 weeks, or take the check and do whatever you were going to do for have a vacation. There's not really much complications there. So, all right.
Colleague will give our boss their 2-week notice today. What do I say when my boss asks me if I'm also looking to leave?
Oh, what makes you think your boss will ask you that?
Well,
For one,
he's afraid because he is looking
well,
and he doesn't want to lie. Yeah.
well, tell him whatever you want. I'm always looking for my opportunities, because if you're not, you're stupid.
Uh-huh.
So you leave the open-ended question as an it's really none of his business. But if you want to answer it, then you say, of course, I'm always looking for something that moves my career along. Of course I am. That's duh. I'm a valuable human being. Of course I'm looking for places. How actively am I looking? He's probably not looking all that actively, right? His eyes are just open.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you're out there, passing out 10 resumes a day or something like that, then you're not actively looking. So you can honestly answer, I haven't really gave it that much thought, and leave it at that, because you really haven't. You just have your eyes open like everybody should. And if a better opportunity passes in front of you,
there you go.
Of course you're going to take it. That's
good.
also none of his business. But you can honestly say, if that's the case, then you can honestly say, I haven't really put that much thought into it. Just leave it at that. It's kind of a non-answer answer. So, now if you've got a good relationship with your boss, maybe be a bit more open, but it's really not his place to answer it. And most bosses won't ask unless you have a good relationship with them, or they're a really terrible boss. Any kind of middling boss isn't going to ask you. Okay.
Been sick off and on and off for 3 months. I have provided doctor's notes each time, but I feel like my boss is angry or upset with me.
He's probably frustrated because, your boss has work that needs to be done. When you're not there, somebody else has to do it, or it doesn't get done, right? And opportunity cost, something isn't getting done, so your stuff can, no matter where you cut it, something isn't getting done. Burden is landing on other people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that's frustrating.
It would be.
Yeah. Sometimes these things are nobody's fault. They're just are. You've been sick off and on. Maybe you can take better care of yourself. You don't know why. They didn't say why they've been sick.
No, they didn't.
Have they been taking care of their diabetes, or did they get COVID twice just out of randomness?
I forget.
There's a difference there, right?
Yeah.
One is just pure dumb luck, and it is what it is. Other is, well, yeah, you've played a role in you not being well. I can resemble that remark, and everybody will forgive you once or twice. But at some point, they're going, yeah, but you're sick because you refuse to not eat your ho-hos at your lunch, or whatever it is that's that thing you won't change to make yourself not get sick. I had to change my diet so I don't get sick all the time.
Yes, you did. You gave up your beloved Dr. Pepper.
I didn't completely give it up, but I had to cut way the heck back on it. And I changed lots of things about my diet. I have far less sugar and salt and things. I had to completely change how I eat, which I'm not saying I eat healthy. I just eat less bad. But I had to, at some point, you're the one responsible for this. You can't expect doctors and pills to solve your problem for you.
Yeah.
So your boss is just, frustrated. And my suspicion is do the best when you're there, and, maybe take a little bit of care of yourself so you're less likely to get sick. Now, you're probably already considering that, hopefully, unless it's just some freak thing like you fell and broke your. I've done this. I broke my elbow at a camping trip, so I come back from vacation with a broken elbow at work, so we got to deal with that for the next 6 weeks. Then the week I get my cast off, I slip in the shower and I catch myself with that arm and re-break my elbow, and so now I've got another broken elbow for 6 weeks. Weird stuff happens sometimes, right?
Weird stuff happens to you an inordinate amount of times.
But I worked through it as best I could. There were days where I couldn't take the pain, and I left home and went early home and things like that. But I did my best I could to get through it. And if they see you do that, then they're more tolerant.
Yeah.
But if you're a slacker at work and you're also kind of, skimping on your illnesses and you're getting sick all the time, yeah, they're going to be frustrated. So just think about it from their perspective and do the best you can to improve your health. And again, maybe it's just pure dumb luck, and next month you're kind of out of this cycle.
Yeah.
And you'll be fine. Okay.
Why am I being cross-trained but no one else is?
Because everybody else is too stupid. Congratulations. That's not a bad sign.
No, it's not.
So don't overthink it. But you're being cross-trained because they need someone who can do multiple things, and they think you're someone who can handle it.
And they think you're going to be around for a while.
Yeah. So there's a whole.
They don't bother to cross-train people that they don't see being employed there for a short amount of time.
Yeah. So in a sense, maybe a restructuring is coming. We'll call it a restructuring. Layoffs and restructuring is coming. And some of those tasks are going to be reassigned, and you're on the stay list. Now, whether that's good or bad is, sometimes the best thing to do is be the ones who get laid off, not the ones who stick around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if companies are smart, they lay off the people who don't pull their weight anyway. And so everybody else ends up better off.
There you go.
But so you'll see. We'll see. It's not a bad it's by itself, it's not a bad sign. But if there's signs of layoffs and stuff, then it's a sign that you're being planned to be stuck around. So congratulations in a strange way.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a terrible company or something, then maybe they are looking to lay other people off and dump a bunch of work onto you, and you might be wanting to look somewhere else. But I suggest it's probably just one of the better ones. Your emergency coverage, they're looking to you for management or something like that. There's all kinds of positive outcomes that are more likely. Okay.
Anyone else tired of rewriting the same cover letter 50 times?
Why are you writing the same cover letter 50 times is my question. You shouldn't be using the same cover letter. You should essentially always be at the very least, modifying your cover letter for each one. And if that's what you're actually talking about, well, then yes, you get tired of it, but when your job is to find a job, that's what you do.
That's literally your job right now is to find a job.
Now not that I would ever really suggest this, but if you have a template that you already use and you need it to change, you can ask AI to rewrite it for you each time.
You can.
Because you're essentially just swap out this with that, but there's a reason you're not getting noticed. And maybe a change to your formatting by letting AI do it will be a better option. Give it a try. If your current method isn't working, then trying something else isn't going to hurt, right?
That's a good idea. Yeah, give it a try.
And here's the thing. A lot of times what I do use the AI for, I'll set it and I'll have the AI write something or have it try to revise my something, and I decide my version's better, and so I stick with mine. Or I'll take an idea out of theirs and add it to mine and stick with mine. I don't always use AIs.
Oh, yeah?
It's sometimes it helps to see what somebody else would come up with and go, nah, I don't like that. And it's because AI works on averages. It's essentially, what would the average letter like that be? Mine's better, or I prefer a different tone, or I prefer, there's all kinds of, I like mine better. Sometimes is the answer. And sometimes the answer is, yeah, mine was a little snarky, so I posted it into the AI and had the AI rewrite it, and it came out better. You can save yourself some hassle if you do that. So yeah. Sometimes it can save your butt. Other times it just makes you sound like a robot. But the question is, it's just a tool, and use it as a comparison tool, and change up your methodology a little bit. At the very least, to give you something better else to do. Okay.
Coworker is very sly and seems to weaponize politeness or seemingly benign comments to deliver contempt. The deniable plausibility is making me feel like I'm insane, but the things they say seem so pointed. How common is this in corporate environments? I experienced it a lot.
Yeah,
just polite, meet polite with polite, and shun them on.
Yeah, don't worry about it. If you're focused on yourself, then these things don't bother you. Just do your thing. Let them unhappy people be unhappy in their own little world. Don't join them.
Definitely. They I don't know why they want to bring down people to their level. I don't get it.
This is the one that good, oh, bless your heart. It comes in handy.
Bless your heart.
And you just move on with your day. Just bless their heart and move on with their day. Don't let it ruin your day. That's my suggestion.
Go old school. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just changed a policy to win an argument at work. Now, this guy, he realizes he went too far.
No shit. Sorry. Okay.
But he doesn't feel bad about it to change the policy back.
Well,
he did it, so now he has to stick with it.
Well, it depends on the policy. The policy might be, just because he changed it to win an argument doesn't necessarily mean the policy isn't a bad idea.
Okay.
So we're getting, the policy might very well be a good idea, and so now the reason he put it in place might not be all that valid, but the policy itself, given other circumstances, could be. But being a good leader sometimes means acknowledging you screwed up. So if you really want to lead your team, lead your business, you would acknowledge you messed up and change the policy back. You would make it right, because that's what good leaders do. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be followed? It's the question to ask yourself. You don't need to be right all the time to be a leader. You need to be trustworthy. And how do you build trust? By telling your team you screwed up. We've gone through this time and time again. Leadership is a quite simple prospect. You accept responsibility. You accept blame, and you pass on credit. That's how you be a good leader. When stuff goes wrong, it's your fault. When stuff goes right, it's your team's fault. I didn't do it, they did. When they fail, I didn't give them the support they needed. Truth is irrelevant. That's how you become a leader. Your team will bust walls for you if you do that for them. So the proper thing to do, whether that's a good policy or not, is to admit your mistake. You gather your team, you say you screwed up, but the policy is a good policy, we're leaving it. But I wanted to let you know that I implemented it for the dumbest reason possible. That's the proper thing to do. Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, here's the last question in this segment. Employer asked me, what if I don't want to hire you? Okay, so he went in to a fast food place,
Okay.
got the application, filled it out, turned it in, says, are you hiring? When are you going to make your decision? And the dude looked at him and goes, what if I don't want to hire you?
So then I'll get a job somewhere else is the actual answer for that. Same thing I was going to do tomorrow. Same thing I do every day, Pinky. But if you're talking about a fast food place, there's so many stereotypes about fast food managers I could pull into. You know how many fast food managers are recovering alcoholics?
Yeah.
It's an inordinate amount. And so when fast food managers look for employees, they look for ones who can take the fast food environment. And it's a difficult environment to work in, a fast food place.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't take an uncomfortable question, then you don't have the stones to stay in.
Not with being cussed out at least once a week.
And because
by customers.
And because they're recovering alcoholics, they can be overly, we'll call it blunt, about getting to that, about finding out if the person is can take it or not. So or they're just a douche and just being a jerk because they're not the one who makes the decision. So they're just.
I never heard of such a thing.
It's one of those things that only happens in places like fast food restaurants and things like that. Okay. They don't happen anywhere else. They don't happen high up on the employment food chain.
Okay.
That thing happens at the literal ground level employment. That's just where it does. Just is. All right, that's it for this segment. Remember, take your paid time off, trust your gut, eat something fun or healthy, and if all else fails, blame Mercury retrograde. This is life, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay honest, stay soft, stay weird, have a good night, and please remember to love everybody.